internet. Welcome to the only podcast about movies. My name is Matthew Kroll, and with me as always is
Shahir Dowd.
And with us as sometimes now is
Steve Buja. Hello.
Hey, you look familiar.
I do look familiar. I probably don't look familiar to a lot of people because you can't actually see me right now.
That is true.
And this being the only podcast, I'm going to emphasize podcast.
Right.
Nobody can see you right now.
Nobody can see me.
Right. No, Steve and I, for those of you who don't know, for a long time did other web shows around Same Night Movie Review, which sort of birthed our, mine in particular, sort of reviewing or talking about movies critically. And Shahir was a guest on that for a long time when Steve was in the woods.
He was.
Sorry.
Yeah. I was quasi Steve, non-wood Steve.
You were the far more well spoken and exotic Steve.
You still managed to review from the woods, which I was always very impressed
That is
by.
true. Steve would send us videos from the Pacific Northwest Trail.
I remember that. But actually, thank you guys for having me on here. I love listening to the show.
Yeah.
I feel like you're an inaugural member anyway.
Yeah.
Like it's kind of it's probably your show anyway.
It was the trifecta.
Yeah.
Today, what are we talking about, guys? Who wants to say it? Because I can't pronounce it right.
Sicario.
Sicario?
I was actually like mispronouncing it as Sicario for a little while.
So this is the only podcast about Sicario.
And I think we might actually be the only podcast.
Yes.
Honestly, it could be.
It could be. Like it's a strange little rollout of this film, which is that it has like major film stars behind it. It has kind of Oscar credence, but it's kind of being rolled out and it reviewed really well at Toronto. It reviewed very well at film festivals, but it's being rolled out very small scale. It's only playing at a few theaters. I think it's like they're trying to do this sort of build out where they play it, in a small box office rollout, hopefully garner some good reviews, and then roll it out even further. And it's, but the numbers on this film aren't good at this point.
What are the numbers?
What are the numbers?
Well, off a $30 million budget, after having been released on September 18th, this movie has made $1 million.
Wow. But there's something like a limited release, or like we don't really know the release.
Again, it must be.
No, it's a very small release, and I feel like it's going to roll out bigger as time goes on.
Yeah, and that's sort of been happening. Like, didn't American Sniper had sort of a before it blew up? It had like the slow trickle. It like they played it at a couple theaters early.
Right. Okay.
And then.
So. But that was also closer to Oscar time. Like, we're still many months out. So
right.
Yeah.
So this feels more like letting just the doldrums of September, just letting it die on the vine.
But it's interesting because the film is being reviewed so well. Like it is getting a lot of praise. So
through other media, not being podcasts.
Yeah, not being podcast. Yeah, exactly. So it's strange. It strikes me as strange that this movie isn't getting a bigger push.
Right.
Especially given the kind of Benicio del Toro, Emily Blunt, Josh Brolin. Shot by Roger Deakins.
It was directed the director Denis Villeneuve. I think
it's Denis Villeneuve.
Oh, okay.
It's an episode of mispronunciation.
But he directed Prisoners, which got major play last year, 2 years ago, and I think Incendies.
Incendies,
a couple of years
amazing.
ago, which I never saw, but I hear is quite wonderful.
And he also simultaneously released Prisoners and Enemy together as well. And
Enemy, that's it.
And I have to say, both those two films, Prisoner and Enemies, were probably my top, within my top 5 of last year.
Right.
Wow.
Like they, and because they're so different, which is what I loved about them.
Something I was going to say. You said it cost $30 million.
As far as Box Office Mojo tells me,
because what was the cinematographer's name?
Roger Deakins.
I mean, for what we'll talk about all the different things we think about the movie, but one thing that really struck me was how good it looked.
Oh, Roger Deakins is the greatest cinematographer living right now.
Well, like that's and it shocks me that it was $30 million.
Yeah,
like,
I mean,
it looks like they put their money to good use, and it looks way more expensive.
Deakins also
than
shot
$30
Prisoners, and that movie looks amazing.
Yeah, I mean, it's Sicario is definitely the kind of movie where it seems like every dollar is up there on screen, be it either technically or in just like you have these very talented actors just doing their thing up there. So
I mean, Deakins, No Country for Old Men, Skyfall, a Shawshank Redemption. True Grit.
I always forget how pretty a movie Skyfall is too.
Oh, it's beautiful.
It's great.
And for me, the assassination of Jesse James is
he did that.
He's the most beautiful movie probably shot in the last 10 to 15 years.
I haven't seen that in a long time.
It's so
beautiful.
So with that in mind,
Right.
why don't we read a little synopsis of what Sicario is about?
Okay. You do it.
All right, I'll do it.
Story time.
Story time. After uncovering, and I'm reading this as a written thing as well, so it might feel a little written, but after uncovering a gruesome scene in an Arizona drug den, FBI agent Kate Mesa, played by Emily Blunt, is recruited into an elite operation jointly coordinated by the Department of Defense and possibly the CIA to bring down a Mexican cartel boss. Kate tags along unsure of her role as she witnesses a charismatic Texan Department of Defense consultant, Matt, played by Josh Brolin, and Alejandro, played by Benicio del Toro, a mysterious Colombian operative, and both of them work around the law, crossing borders, both legal and physical, to bring down the elusive cartel boss. So that's what it is. Kind of a convoluted plot, and I have to make a disclaimer right up front.
Oh shit, that's always fun.
Okay.
Which is, I missed the first 5 minutes of this movie. It pissed me off, actually. I walked in. The movie was starting at 9:50.
Okay.
And I feel like movie theaters have a social contract now, which is that the movie won't start at least 10 minutes after that with all the trailers and that sort of thing.
Yeah. No, 10 to 15 minutes. You're gonna be there for a while.
I walked in at 9:55 and this movie had been playing.
Did you see it? Did you see it at the Brooklyn Academy of Music?
No, I saw it at the Regal in Union Square.
Oh, okay.
And I guess
very unlike the Regal.
Unlike the Regal.
Yeah, and it was like a Thursday night or something like that. So I think maybe it was like their last session, so they just didn't play any trailers. They just like rolled the movie.
Yeah, I don't know.
I missed the first. I missed the first 5 minutes of this film, and I feel like that had a big impact on like my.
I'm trying to remember, first of all, the first 5 minutes of the film. You've seen it the most recent.
Yeah, I saw it 2 days ago.
Is it just her? It's her doing the training.
It's them executing the operation on the house.
Right. At what point did you walk in?
I walked in I missed that entire operation, and so I walked in as she was being recruited into her.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
How long is that? Is
it like 15 minutes?
Oh, really?
No.
It felt long.
It's a little less than 10 minutes. Basically, Emily Blunt, Kate, her and her team, they're trying to find some kidnappers
in New Mexico,
in Arizona.
Yeah,
they go to a house. There's a small firefight that occurs. Emily Blunt almost gets shot, but she takes down the guy. But they discover just a whole mess of bodies inside the walls.
Yeah,
which is just fucked up.
Cartel hits.
And then
storing.
And the next major event was there were the officers on the scene. They find like a safe in a shed.
Yeah,
and which is a bomb. It blows up. And there's gruesome and just like Emily Blunt she just can't.
Her and her partner get a little shell shocked.
And then
like she sees like two of her men died or something like that, and there's body parts everywhere.
Yeah. And I admit I will preface everything I say by missing that scene. I felt it really impacted my enjoyment of the rest of the film. But let's talk.
I'm gonna say, and this is just I'm gonna sort of give an overview of sort of my thoughts. I think I'm very interested to see what you thought, because that scene to me was one of my favorite moments of the film.
I'm sure, yeah.
And just in my own opinion, as we're going sort of through this, I feel like that set up an amazing thing to be seen that I then kind of never got that same level of amazement from.
Right.
But that's neither here nor there.
I could totally, because I went back as soon as the film was over. I went back and watched, and read what happened in that opening scene.
Yeah.
And well, why don't we go around and just say what our thoughts were, because before we get into spoilers or anything like that.
Sure.
What do we think of the film? Steve?
Overall, at the end of the movie, I walked out going like, okay, I can respect this movie on a technical level, but I honestly don't know why this movie actually exists. What it was trying to say was not interesting to me at all, and it didn't say it in a particularly unique or clever way. I don't need movies to innovate all the time. I would, just be well done, and it was well done. But I honestly, I just really didn't care about it.
Right,
care for it that much.
Matt,
I mean, I'm in the same boat, but a little more like I get why they wanted it made, and I think I get why I wanted it made, because I saw it at a Q&A where the producer, I don't think director, but Emily Blunt, Benicio del Toro, and Josh Brolin, who is a wall of a man.
Oh, really?
He is tall as fuck. He walked in and you're just like, oh, I know why they cast him as Thanos now. Like he's just, I mean, he looks awesome, but like he's just is a presence.
Right.
And Benicio del Toro is the same, but sort of like a more like low.
It's weird because in the film,
he's like aloof.
Yeah, Brolin seems smaller than Benicio del
I know,
Toro.
but that is not
the case.
At least from where I was sitting 2 rows back. Anyway,
Tom Cruise effect.
Yeah. So, when they were talking about the sort of stuff, they went into like, I'm trying to remember the exact words, but like one of the big reasons they wanted to make this film was to kind of shine light on this part of the like Mexican drug business that doesn't like that you don't really hear a lot about that's still going on now. Like horrible things like that's happening that's kind of spilling over our borders. And there was a whole thing about like, you know, how we deal with it and whatnot. But I don't feel like I'm like, that's a noble sort of thing. Like, okay, you're going to make this sort of not thriller, but like actions, not even action.
It's kind of like a
procedural drama with a little bit of action in it. It didn't like, I don't know, like kind of like what you said, Steve, it didn't grab me enough to care. Like the issue I thought was important and sort of telling, but after that, and especially after they did a tremendous job setting up in that first scene, sort of like, oh, this is what you're going to come to expect from this movie. Like, this is what it is. And then it just slows down and slows down and slows down. And we'll talk about sort of the format and the structure of the film later. But I feel like the structure just it like unraveled near the middle and never quite put itself back together. I think this film falls into a pitfall that some movies do where it doesn't know who the main character is. And that's okay if you set up your movie to do that. But again, that's for those first 5 minutes. Kate, I tapped the desk. Kate is the main character.
Yeah.
But then she seems like she's not. And like even by the last quarter, you're like, oh, this isn't even about her at all.
Yeah.
Like,
I mean, based on the title alone, like she's not the Sicario in this movie,
right? So. Right, and it wasn't set up in a way. I feel like, this is the last movie I saw that was sort of like this, but like the narrator as character, as sort of your placeholder of how you've experienced it, like even like The Great Gatsby, right? Yeah. Like that character is purely meant, the main guy is purely meant to be there for you as the audience to sort of be
the Nick Carraway.
She's the audience cipher,
right? But they set her up not as that, and then they turn her into that, and that really bothered me and stuck with me. But again, a beautiful looking movie, and technically very well done. But at the end of the day, I walked out, and other than this podcast and sort of prepping for it, I haven't given it much of a thought.
Right.
Yeah.
Shahir?
I'm pretty much on board with everything you guys are saying. But you know, like,
well, this has been the only podcast about Sicario.
And we're done. No, I agree. It's technically beautiful. I think Villeneuve is a very impressive filmmaker. Again, Prisoners and Enemy are total must-sees for me, and Incendies as well. And interestingly, again, you know, we were talking about the Blue Tongue filmmakers with The Gift.
Right.
One of my films played with Denis Villeneuve's short film Next Floor Please, and again, I felt completely embarrassed to be in the room because Next Floor Please is amazing, and this guy is I think of Hollywood filmmakers that Villeneuve reminds me of, the closest I can think of is Fincher, but I think that they're in so much as that they're technically very astute filmmakers, very muscular kind of procedural filmmakers. But I think Villeneuve might have some other flavor in his belt of being able to tap into human stories in a slightly more interesting way. That's not to say one is better than the other. They're just different kinds of filmmakers.
Right.
But so having missed those first few moments of the film, my problem with this is that Kate, Emily Blunt's character, has no impact on the story.
Mm-hmm.
Like you could have no important scene happens with her in it. I mean, there's one scene in the middle that she kind of stumbles upon, but in fact and we can, well, why don't we, without giving too much away, basically Kate meets a Texas cop in a bar who seduces her, who turns out to be part of the cartel.
It's Shane from Walking Dead.
Yeah. God bless the Punisher for getting like work.
The thing about that scene is you can see where it's going as soon as it begins.
Yep.
And then the thing about that scene as well is that it has no real impact on the final story, and it's basically the only moment Kate gets to be involved in the story. She's just kind of like wandering around through this film, even though it's suggested that she's important to be there. And later on in the film, we realize that there's a legal reason why she's in the room,
but that's not exciting to watch.
That's not exciting to watch.
And you go like, oh, so why were we?
It's also kind of what you were expecting the entire time. And again, I always feel bad about this, and we kind of do this every time any of us talk about movies. It's like, oh yeah, it's formulaic, or oh, it didn't really like. I knew it was coming a mile away. I don't know why it is, and maybe you guys could shine some light on this personally. Like, why some films I'm totally cool with knowing exactly where it's going.
Yeah.
And other films where I'm like, oh, if I figure it out, like I don't, and this isn't like a mystery we're dealing with. Although they do have a little bit of in this film, a little bit of like they're trying to be like who's doing what and why.
Yeah.
But like everything did feel very formulaic, and that bothered me. Whereas I'm trying to think of another obviously the big popcorn movies, you know where they're going, so that doesn't really count.
But you don't mind. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Maybe that's it.
I think maybe it has to do with interesting characters. Like Kate is just so blank and bland a character.
Emily Blunt.
I know, and I love Emily Blunt too. And like I appreciate there's something to be said about this role. Like I think originally Villeneuve or the writer Taylor Sheridan was like asked to like write the role for a man,
right?
A man is said, and I'm like okay, so this could have been a man's role, and so like she's getting this role that is just like completely her gender does not matter, so it's like a win for equality, but it's so. It's such a nothing role in it that that you're like, I'd rather you be like the girl in the dress right now to at least show some flair, show some character, than just this like empty.
I think
basic agent.
I think she has. Yeah, it's true. Like you could almost argue that the fact that she is a female in the scene that we just talked about really plays against her in terms of like where this. If this film has anything to say about gender equality, I don't think it does.
No, it
really doesn't.
It doesn't mention.
And I think it would actually like that scene that we just mentioned with Shane from The Walking Dead kind of like really plays against any empowerment that this character has as well.
Right, because in that scene, she doesn't save herself.
No, she doesn't save herself, and she kind of like. Like everyone else in the film is kind of emotionally stunted to the point where they can just execute anything without thinking about it, without consciousness, and like she is not that person.
I think I might have hit the nail on the head why her character bothered me as much as it did. She is a person like you or me, and so it's like it's not so much a character, which in some movies you can have characters that are more real and sort of people right. I guess but in this one you got Josh Brolin, who's this kind of wisecracking, smart-ass DOD
who's
agent,
awesome.
Who's awesome. You have Benicio del Toro, who's like fucking just rad as hell, and like sort of like not over the top, but very quiet and milling, and like these are characters, like these are character pieces they're doing, and then you have her character, which is just like I'm a regular person. Like everyone else in this movie feels like it's a character with certain like I'm trying to think of I guess heightened attributes and heightened sort of personalities where she does not.
Well, so going back to that question that you had, which is why is it you're okay with certain films taking you into expectation that you're fine with, and why are certain a film like this where it leads you into expectations that you know are coming, but that's not okay. And I think it has to do with pedigree. Like this film feels like an Oscar contender. It feels like that kind of handsome, elegant. Like very well considered. The dialogue is very natural. It's people say interesting things.
Yeah, the writing's great.
Writing is great. It's directed beautifully. The acting is
the dialogue is great. The writing is not great. So, the dialogue is great.
And the biggest flaw of this film, and I think it's a really interesting example, and the only other film I can think of that's kind of like this, although my appreciation of it has grown in years, is Children of Men, which is that it's a film where the direction, the actual production is better than the script. And I think this is a really good example of that as well, where everything about this production is better than what the story is giving it.
Yeah. Right. Well, so I learned. Oh, sorry.
At least in Children of Men, which is one of my top 10 of the last 10 years. It's an amazing movie, and certainly the direction definitely outclasses the script. But I still think the script is good.
Yeah, the script is good.
Because at least Clive Owen is the main character. Like I can sure a lot of he's a lot of times reacting to a lot of stuff, but he's still like moving. He's still moving this person through the story.
And I agree. Like over the years, the more I've watched Children of Men, the more I've kind of like, come to comfort with between those two things. But this film has that problem that I think we've all identified, which is that Kate's character is the least interesting in the film, and ultimately, without giving too much away, this should have been Benicio del Toro's movie.
Well, this is what the thing. This is when you just triggered something in my brain. I remember thinking in the theater, wow, this movie got so bored with its main character that it decided to just give it to someone else midway through. Like it's like, this isn't going anywhere. What are you doing, Benicio? It was very strange.
No, yes, and I do agree with that. But I actually. On some way, I do respect the.
Yeah,
I definitely respect the okay. We have this unformed character, but it's actually about this other, more like this character who really who's already exactly where he needs to be and everything, and so it sort of gives this heightened mystery to Benicio because since we aren't following him and getting into his mind, he just exists as this fucking scary ass motherfucker.
But the problem is the film by the end of it posits that the greatest emotional change happens in Emily Blunt, and unfortunately, we don't care. And I think that the way that the film ends suggests that this that Emily Blunt has undergone a profound change. And she might have very well, but it's not that interesting. And I think it does a disservice to other things that have happened in the film that are much bigger than her. And that to me is the problem of while I appreciate the structure and I appreciate the kind of slightly novel way that it tackles this story, it ultimately is ineffective. It doesn't quite land. And that's a problem. So we do, I think like you, I admire a writer trying to tackle the story in a slightly different way. But maybe there are some tried and true ways to kind of approach the story that would be more effective.
Yeah, I mean, I'm trying to think of a film that has done this sort of placeholder character to sort of spotlight the main or not the main character, but the coolest character the film is really about. That's done it well. And
one of mine is Animal Kingdom, which Animal Kingdom has that Nick Carraway kind of observer character. But the thing is, like Gatsby and Animal Kingdom in my mind, the film puts that observer character at the beginning who's sort of uninteresting compared to the other star players, but then slowly shifts the meaning of the film towards how it impacts that character. Now, unfortunately, in Sicario, this basically the last third of this film happened. Emily Blunt has no part in it, and she has she doesn't bear witness to anything that happens.
Right.
So
that's what threw me.
Yeah. So for her to experience a profound change means nothing because it's you've just one guy just came in and told you what happened, and now you've profoundly it's that to me, if I was script doctoring this film, I would say you need to have Emily Blunt in the room when this big thing happens.
Right. And on that note, that was one of the I didn't find this movie as shocking as I think it thinks it is, except for that scene where okay.
Shall we get into spoilers?
Let's get into spoilers and we'll kind of go chronologically through this beast. So Emily Blunt gets conscripted into this weird government task force, and she's not really sure why. But she wants her partner to go, and then they don't let him go. But then they let him go, and then they don't let him go. Whatever. And they go through. They have a couple. They have to. What was the first thing they had to do? Driving through Juarez.
So they went through Juarez, and again, that scene is amazing.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, that was really
it's a
well directed,
well put together scene. The soundtrack, the shooting.
They were moving a
prisoner.
A prisoner. So then they get into a traffic jam, probably brought on by the cartel. They have a huge contingent of personnel, of law enforcement personnel, and they get into this traffic jam, and they're kind of surrounded by a couple cars of gang members.
Yeah.
And I believe Emily Blunt has the only sort of heroic moment as she has in the entire movie where she notices one of the cops is actually, that's what starts off the whole thing. One of the lawmen is actually working for the cartel and turns to shoot them.
Well, I don't think that's much of a surprise because they even say up front, don't trust the cops in
Right. No, I'm not saying that's a surprise. I'm saying that's the moment where her character realized that before anyone else did. And that's why I was like, oh, she's really good. That's when I thought in the movie, I'm like, she's really good at her job. They're setting her up.
Is she?
No, listen to me. I'm not saying she is. I'm saying the movie at that moment, because that's the first time you've seen her in action other than dodging a bullet, which is also pretty cool.
Yeah.
Oh, wow, she's really smart. She'll do this. So that's why she's here, right? That's what I thought it was setting me up for.
Right.
And then it didn't. Like, then she's just fucking perfunctory for the rest of the film. I mean, she's perfunctory there too, except she has that one tiny moment. So, I don't know, I thought it was like drip feeding me like, oh, this is why she's good at her job. This is why she's here. And then it never does anything with her. Now, that scene, again, very well done. They do that. Then, like, it gets kind of murky for me what happens next. They get the prisoner to where they're supposed to go.
Yeah.
Right.
What happens?
They get
Benicio
tortures
them.
Waterboarded them or something.
That was one scene where I actually wish they had cut it just a bit earlier. I'd like, because like Benicio walking in with that giant Poland Spring bottle of water. I'm like, that's all I needed. He just walks in, and the door should have just closed. And I'm like, Benicio just did some shit. I'm sure of it. But it drags on a bit. And then they interrogate him. They
find out about the whereabouts of the tunnel.
Yes, the tunnel. Oh, yes.
Yeah. So they find out the whereabouts of the tunnel. Then you have this like side scene where Emily Blunt decides she needs to like blow off some steam.
Go to the bar.
She goes to the bar and sorry.
Oh, the bank.
They go to the bank. My apologies. They go to the bank and Emily Blunt implicates herself in the scene.
Hold on. Well, let's see. They're going to the bank to sort of cut off
funds
to the drug cartel in Juarez.
In Juarez.
Yeah.
So that way they're going to sort of starve the main guy out.
Yeah.
That's how it was. So they got the information from the first dude from the shootout to find out where the money was stored. Then they went to the bank to deal with the money to find out to starve the son of the main guy or
the lieutenant.
The lieutenant. Yeah.
And then he was going to go back and lead them to the tunnel. That's sort of their whole plan.
The whole thing with the tunnel, I still am actually like I remember walking out of the movie very confused about that. I was like, why
are you confused, audience? Because we kind of are.
And we saw the movie.
Yeah.
Too.
I was like, why do they need to go to this tunnel? Like, why don't they just taking the, like, if the whole purpose of this thing is to get the lieutenant, why don't they just get, and they know where he is and, at all times. They have a drone following him at all times. Why do they need to go through this tunnel to get to him?
Well, they didn't go through the tunnel to get to the lieutenant. Oh, no, they did. They
did.
They did to just get a cop car?
Yeah, they get a cop car and like follow the lieutenant. It was very confusing, and I'm sure that it probably makes sense on revisiting it,
Sure.
Because this movie is so detail and procedurally oriented.
It feels like we just missed something on first viewing, but that kind of says something about the movie itself. Because if we're missing something
about the lack of clarity,
like I mean, if all three of us were kind of cloudy at sort of how that went around, I don't think that's necessarily on the audience member at that point. Like, I'm not saying like we're so smart, we normally, but one of us should have fucking been like, no, like it's this, and this, and we all sort of have different stories.
And then, and so from there on in, Emily Blunt pretty much exits the film, and then there's like a remaining third where Benicio del Toro is on the other side of the fence, chasing down the lieutenant and the cartel, and the reveals of the film are all about Benicio del Toro at that point,
right?
And he becomes the titular Sicario.
Now the
titular hitman.
The something interesting. There was the side story going on with I can't remember his name.
Silvio.
Silvio, yeah, but what's his name in Marvel movies? He was a guy.
He's an Agent
Sitwell. Agent Sitwell.
Oh yeah, he is Sitwell.
Yeah.
Which great. I love seeing Sitwell getting work because I think he was awesome.
Yeah, he's great.
So you have this side story
Oh boy.
of this
Yeah.
Mexican dude, with his family, and like his son wants to, they keep cutting back to this random father and son and kind of wife sort of scenario, and you're not quite sure why.
I know why.
You're sure why the second they're on screen.
Yeah. No, they butter him up like a nice piece of toast. But I knew what was going to happen to the character, but I wasn't sure who the character was.
Yeah.
They kept hunting for this lieutenant.
Yeah,
and I thought
he was.
I thought it was going to be like him, like being a smart drug lord and not having lavish shit and just like living like a normal person, but still running this thing. I thought that character was going to be someone important in this grand scheme.
Yeah,
that would have been awesome.
Yeah, that would have made much more sense.
Right. Turns out that's not the case. He's just a random, slightly corrupt police officer that does drug runs for the cartels.
Yeah.
And it just so happens that he's doing drug run duty on the day that Benicio del Toro comes through the tunnel and basically steals his car to go find this drug lieutenant. Now, that seems very well. It's not convenient because they want you to set that up. But at the same time, you're watching this guy's family. They cut back to him like 3 or 4 times.
Oh
like,
yeah,
eating breakfast and getting ready, and his son playing soccer, and like. So
in fact, the final scene of the film, calls back to that.
So I get what they're trying to do because spoiler alert again, something awful happens to that guy, they've been buttering up, as will happen the second his son wakes him up to play soccer.
Yeah.
And the end of the film is the son playing soccer, and I think the mother's there too, right?
The mother's there, and you hear gunshots in the distance.
You hear gunshots in the background, but then they just keep playing soccer.
They keep playing because that's life in war.
Well, that's kind of the point, and this movie I think had a hard time trying to figure out not what it wanted. No. It had a hard time figuring out what it wanted to say, because on one side it wants to showcase this awful situation that's going on literally in sort of our backyard.
Yeah. Juarez is like the murder capital of South America, right?
So that is, and they do that with these sort of powerful scenes that they sprinkle in, but at the same time, it's trying to earn the entire time your attention for this issue, and because it's not quite sure how it wants to do that or who it wants to do that with, then it just is kind of lost.
Yeah, and the other film that I kind of remember that had scenes like that but seemed to be more effective was Syriana. Stephen.
I've never seen Syriana.
Right,
Syriana's a good one. Yeah,
but Syriana kind of plays in the same sort of geopolitical terrorism story, and this is a geopolitical drug story, but like with domestic terrorism. And Syriana kind of is a little bit more derived from Traffic. As well, the other Benicio del Toro starring film, which interestingly Sicario I think kind of calls back to with Benicio del Toro. But at any rate, I think it's one of those things that like you can see the writing. You can really see the writing in that with that, and it is somewhat dismissive, and it is somewhat to actually like use. It's a little bit cynical to use this character this way because it doesn't do anything interesting with it.
Yeah,
no,
and I think all of us are kind of tempering this with this is very well made, and it's not a stupid film.
No, it's a very smart film.
It's a very, very smart film.
But not as smart as I think it is.
If you are not enamored by those production values, by that level of directorial craftsmanship, you could argue that this film is actually deeply troublingly offensive because it does that thing, which is that it takes a very important issue from a political point of view, and not whitewashing is the wrong term, but it kind of like tries to put us in that world through a character who has no part of that world and suggest that that's the only way we can understand it. And it's
but however, we will not understand it. You will not understand anything you see to your American eyes, according to Benicio.
Yeah, exactly. And whereas I think if Benicio del Toro was the main character and this was very much about his life experience and his way into this world, I think it would. Now, I say it's troublingly offensive if you were to like really, really push it. I don't think it's I don't think it's offensive, but I think if you really want to tear apart the strings of this film, you could argue that they're essentially trying to make a film about the Mexican drug cartels and drug wars through the perspective of white Anglo-Saxon Americans. And even their own character has nothing to do with this world, and is uninvolved in it.
Well, I think I'm trying to remember what the panel said, but everyone seemed the actors and the production people seemed very in love with the script. And that was the reason, like, people asked, like, well, Benicio, you've done movies like this before. Like, why did you feel this was important to come back and sort of do again? And he's like, well, the script was just magnificent. And I think the dialogue is magnificent.
It's very good.
But structurally, I don't think it's all there. And also, there was something. Well, I guess this script had been floating around the studios for a long time,
right?
And finally, it came across the production team's desk that did it, and they really wanted to do it, and they had to get people involved. I think Benicio might have been the first person to get involved. I'm trying to remember. This is a bit ago, but it just seems like I don't know it is a film I want to be all there.
Yeah, I really want to like this film a lot.
I like everyone involved. I like the production value. I like the amount of money it costs because it looks fantastic for it.
And it's playing in that ballpark that I think we all want from like a good thriller, you know?
Which actually, now that we're sort of talking about, all these great things are set up for it. And I've always been a proprietor of, when you set me up for greatness and then don't deliver on that greatness, like, I almost find that more offensive than like, oh, this movie's shitty, I know it in the first 5 minutes, I can deal with it. Like, it's kind of, and you guys won't agree with me on this one, or maybe you will, I don't know. But Signs, for instance, I think the first 90% of Signs is fucking brilliant.
Yeah.
And then it ruins it at the end. I built this beautiful sort of castle in my mind of all the wonderment that this movie was, and then just it fucking wrecking balled it down to shit at the end. So this one, it's not that sort of like it's build not like that, but like all the pieces of a great film are here, minus some structure things. I also think, and we can talk about this too, the editing, I think, did it a disservice.
Really? How so?
First of all, like we said, sometimes they use the editing to confuse us on purpose.
Yeah.
Right.
In the tunnels specifically.
Yeah.
Because you're not supposed to know, because Kate goes the wrong way and sees something she's not supposed to see. Not that it fucking matters.
Yeah.
Because I'm gonna stop there for a second. So she goes and sees Benicio del Toro going on his own secret mission to basically kill the drug cartel boss, and she doesn't want it to happen because it's not by the book and blah 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 blah, whatever the hell it is. And then you're like, oh, so she's gonna see this, and that's what I thought. Maybe she's gonna go along because she's, and then
or like hide in the trunk, or something.
Nope. She turns around, and then her and Josh Brolin get in a fight, and then you don't see her for the next half hour.
And Josh Brolin explains exactly what is happening and why, and you're like, well, why are you telling me this? Why aren't you showing me this?
Yeah.
I forget where I was going with this.
I think what you're getting at is that thing where, again, this film has so much going for it, so much good stuff going for it, that it is a little more disappointing when it doesn't deliver. And again, I think it's, to me, this is kind of like a B+ film as well. You know, like, if the fact that the story doesn't quite deliver, but it does walk around and illustrate an important subject, then is that enough? Now, I think it could be more powerful, like Traffic, for example, which really navigates that world, in a multifaceted way, with impact. Yeah. But the problem is that, you could argue as well, maybe one of the central points of this film is that Kate thinks everything should be by the book, and this what they're essentially saying is that the American government is not, is willing to bend the rules when it's required, and that's actually a good thing.
Yeah.
But is it a good thing? And does Kate kind of care at the end of the film? I mean, I think she cares, but does the audience care about what she thinks?
Well, it's funny because Kate gets her initial involvement is because she doesn't like how this is sort of spilling over onto American soil and her job, and that's why she takes it, because they tell her, if we get this guy, then this is going to stop happening in America.
Right.
That's their pitch.
Yeah. And it's justifying the means and whatnot.
Yeah. And so that's why she does it. And then how they do then she does, it's that whole is it worth it sort of thing. And sorry, I want to go the editing. I think it was more of a story editing thing, not like a actual physically cutting the scenes together.
Yeah.
I just feel like the way that they cut big moments, not like individual shots, but like the big moments and how they sort of put them together added to our whole sense of confusion. I feel like there's a cleaner way to still try to do what they're trying to do, but have us not get as lost in it with still a little bit of mystery. And I just remember walking out and being like, man, like that. And I haven't felt like that in a long time. Like it's funny because I edited for such a long time. I feel like I never watch a movie. I can kind of detach that part of my brain. And this one like hit me and I was like, no, look at this. This is wrong. And I was like, no, I guess. I don't know.
That's good. That's good. But yeah, it's just it's weird though. We will be, if we are the only podcast that are talking about this film, we'll probably be the only people who are feeling this way about this film as well. Like critical consensus of this film is not at all what we're saying.
Yeah, well, there's something interesting about that, and I call that the American Hustle effect. It's just like there's movies that have, again, all the pieces that feel like they should. That's another great example of this sort of film, which has all the pieces that should be really great. In fact, I'd say this movie has way more good pieces than American Hustle does.
Far more.
Yeah,
but. Like, if you want to just talk cast, for instance, like you have this all-star cast in American Hustle, and you kind of expect more than a bunch of improv for fucking 2 hours.
Yeah.
But like, yeah, like so then one acclaimed person either thinks maybe some of the reviewers think that this issue is super important, and if they feel like they review the movie badly, then it won't get the sort of press that it needs to sort of help maybe make some change. I don't know. There's a bunch of different reasons why people do, but then I feel like there's a bandwagon effect where if someone writes a great review critically, and you could easily review this movie well.
Yeah.
I feel like.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And it's very easy to do, and it's very easy to come off, I think, sounding smart reviewing it well. Like it just it's the perfect sort of like kind of an art house, but not really.
Yeah, it's a muscular art house thriller.
Yeah.
Right. It's an art house movie where people get shot in the head, and you're like, oh, that's not your typical art house movie.
Yeah.
So I have to at least kind of like this.
I can see how this is happening.
But
Well, Steve, I was going to say you tweeted or Facebook message.
Yeah, that was actually my next point.
That I really strongly agreed with when you wrote it.
And so I will say, audience, listen, come a little closer now. If you want to see a movie set in the western part of North America with Josh Brolin, shot by the great Roger Deakins, about the cruelty of man and how there's really nothing you can do against it, just watch No Country for Old Men instead. It is in every way a superior film, and says more about just the human condition in, I think, maybe like 30 seconds, and our capacity for violence than this movie does in 2 hours.
But it also, the No Country for Old Men is a really great touchstone reference because it does that thing, which is that the main players in the film don't even meet. And don't kind of go to, like aren't in the same room when the biggest events happen. And in fact, in No Country, spoil for No Country for Old Men, one of the biggest events that happens in the film happens off screen, and we don't see it happen.
Right.
But then the whole thing about that film is that that's the point, is that major events are happening that affect our lives, and we're incapable of stopping it. Right. and that's what that film is about.
Yeah.
Now,
it's about Tommy Lee Jones and his realization.
Yeah, exactly. So what is coming back to Sicario, what is it that Emily Blunt kind of gets from all these events happening without her? And what is it the film is trying to posit by having her not be be part of that? Like how does she impact the story, and what is the story ultimately trying to tell us?
I think it may be going to the last scene in the movie that I think it says that nothing changes. Like, okay, the kid is playing soccer in Juarez and there's still violence around, so what did it actually change? Like, okay, so we landed basically in the same spot as we did, and Emily Blunt is just a little more cynical about the
there's
world.
Truth to that. There's certainly truth to that. And like Benicio del Toro and Josh Brolin's whole mission is that we're not trying to eliminate the drug cartel. We're just trying to introduce some order back into it by having control of it. And it's
which is a great idea.
It's a great idea. It's also what led us into what led America into Salvador and other countries.
It was a great idea.
Like politically, but that's kind of an interesting point. But it doesn't have any,
right.
and like Emily Blunt doesn't fight back against that idea only to be proven wrong. She's simply not there when it happens.
Right.
You know?
She almost fights back, but then spoiler, she's pointing a gun at Benicio, and Benicio's like, "You ain't gonna shoot me," and just walks away. And lo and behold, she doesn't shoot him.
Yeah, and you know, if you compare that to the final scene of Tommy Lee Jones in No Country for Old Men,
oh my god,
and how much that final scene impacts upon the entire film that we've just watched. Compare that with the scene with Emily Blunt.
You can't.
It just doesn't, it doesn't hold water in the same way. So I don't know. Yeah, for me, this is really where the problem of the film is that it's structured in a way to kind of, not purposely, but it kind of diffuses the amount of impact that this film can have.
Right.
Yeah.
It's a very hopeless and cruel movie. I just feel like villain. Whatever the director, he just has a very pessimistic sense of humanity. Like, his movies are mean.
Well, that's kind of like close in the Fincher, ballpark as well.
But Fincher, I find, can always at least, and there was Josh Brolin here, but Fincher can, like, there can be some humor, some actual human relationships there. And I didn't feel like any of the characters, like, really, like, none of the characters really liked each other or got along very well in Sicario.
Well, I'm like,
that was a disconnect.
I think that the difference between a nihilistic sort of like downtrodden, like everything sucks and nothing we did mattered and it's going to continue to suck sort of film, that can work. It doesn't work here because you're right. There's no moments of character. Or I'm not looking for like a happy ending. Yeah. I'm not looking for, and the drugs are gone. Like, that's just that's because it would break the movie and it's fucking stupid.
In fact, the ending as it stands is good. It just doesn't.
Right. The reason it doesn't hit
limps
is it never has a moment of actual, and this is going to sound weird and I'll have to backtrack, but actual human joy. Like, you can be all doom and gloom, like, on the big picture, and nothing you do matters, and we're just these tiny fucking ants on this rock floating through space, and everything doesn't have a point.
It's called The Walking Dead, by the way.
Sure. Yeah. But, like, the reason... I'm going to go back to fucking Angel, the show Angel. Right. Quote from Angel, where he says, "If nothing we do matters, then all that matters is what we do." So it's this idea of nothing you do matters on the bigger picture. So what needs to matter is the small moments you have with individual people, that sort of, or individual situations. And this doesn't have any of those.
Yeah. And I mean, I think a really good example is Traffic. The ending of Traffic, if you remember Benicio del Toro's, like, character arc through Traffic, is everyone thinks that this guy's a corrupt cop and he's trying to, like, take down the cartel, and no one's exactly sure what his motives are. And at the end of the film, it's this beautiful moment where he has a baseball field put in to where they were running drugs, and that's where the film ends. And it's this beautiful moment. Now, the soccer game at the end of Sicario kind of is more bleak, but and the problem is it doesn't pay off all that time that we spent with this family. Whose father gets killed. It doesn't, like, it doesn't give us anything.
It doesn't even paint him in a great light. Like, you don't particularly, like, he has a family. Like, a lot of bad people have families. Yeah. And he's still painted as kind of a bad guy. Like, I never was like, oh, I really like this guy. Yeah. Even if he's supposed to be tough and sort of a drug mule, corrupt cop, like, you can still be a likable drug mule corrupt cop. Yeah. And he wasn't. Yeah. And I like the actor.
They didn't take him out anywhere. He was just like, he was always, like, getting in bed and just, like, eating some eggs and beans and stuff, and like and like he was always, like, forgetting his kid's soccer game, but, like, saying, like, I'll go to it. I'm like, can we just get out of this house so we can, like, feel something for you? Because technically, like, the people who are impacted the most by this movie are the kid and the mother, because they just lost their dad.
No,
and I get what they're trying to say, but, like, whatever.
And it's that thing again, which is that the scene is there and it's in the right place, but it's kind of off by 1 degree, like it's just not quite landing in the right way.
You can't keep a character that's supposed to be sort of not the emotional tether, but the emotional catalyst, or what's supposed to be the emotional catalyst for the big picture moment in the film, and have them just be in a tiny ass apartment doing absolutely nothing and being kind of a dick.
Yeah,
like,
are you talking about Emily Blunt or the
guy? I mean, but sure,
in a similar way as well. Is that in the No Country for Old Men kind of way? You could see that scene with Emily Blunt and Benicio del Toro at the end of the film being that moment.
Sure,
but it's not. Right. It's just not quite there.
Yeah, I wonder if our opinions. I mean, I know that we're in the minority, and I really like everyone involved in this. So this is an interesting case where, like, I hope it does better. Like, I hope things pick up for this film. Like,
Yeah.
I like everyone involved. And I think this is one of those moments where just because of sort of the two or three small things that makes everything unravel, I'd still like to see it do okay. Like,
yeah, because I'd like to see more films like
right.
this.
This is them trying to do something and that's not tried often, and it has been done well in the past, and this doesn't quite hit that mark, but that doesn't mean that it's not worth seeing or it's not worth like trying to do it again.
Yeah. We need more R-rated adult like mystery thrillers that aren't just like
that have a real political backdrop.
Like this kind of reminds me. This reminds me of like Zero Dark 30, which is a movie I like, whatever about. But like I appreciate what it was trying to do. It was wasn't just trying to be like wham bam, thank you man, superhero movie. It was like, okay, we're going to shed light on this particular issue, and it didn't do it particularly well, but
yeah.
And it's the sense of craftsmanship and that using genre in an interesting way. I think it has the potential to like get people interested in these issues. Like I think a film about horror is this, seemingly terrifying place to live, where there's approximately like 50 murders a day or something like that. Or I don't know.
Something crazy.
Some, and even I was looking up the story of the student protesters in Mexico that got kidnapped and killed like last year. I think all, like the power of cinema to tackle those issues in an interesting way and bring them to light is really what we're looking for. And it's a shame for me that Sicario doesn't do it. But then again, looking at Rotten Tomatoes, at least people seem to be responding to it, and I'm just wondering, maybe I'm just like a cynical old bastard.
Well, you are, but that's not the reason. That's not the reason that you have the problems with this movie,
right? Are they responding overwhelmingly well, or is it like this is a good movie, I guess, and that counts as a fresh rating?
I mean, everything's getting a fresh rating. I think the only person who's like speaking against it is A.O. Scott at the New York Times.
Go figure.
Yeah,
like everyone's talking, but basically, maybe what people are responding to is that there's a real dearth of these kinds of films, and it's great to see one.
You know what's interesting about that? Because the script was floating around so long, I feel like it was written in that like bygone age of however many years ago when there was sort of a lot more of these films,
right?
And it just this one never got made, and now it's made sort of out of its time.
Well, I think because Sicario means hitman. If you haven't seen the trailers, I think they saw clearly the success of Hitman. Agent 47.
Oh yeah, they wanted to jump on that.
Like, whoa, this is now the time for this movie.
Well, because what's better than a hitman? Usually played by Jason Statham, just like going around killing people for money.
Oh my god,
it's a shame in my mind. But again, is it a recommendation? Is it a recommended shame? That's the thing.
Oh, are we telling people to see it or not?
I mean, if it's on like Netflix or something, I guess it goes like.
It is. It's a cinematic experience,
right?
Though,
like if you're like,
it's worth seeing on a big screen, at least visually.
Yeah, I mean, if I would take a film class to like, or at least a cinematography class, and be like, yo. This is how you do it. Well, but you can do that for any Deakins movie, I suppose. Really.
Well, the cool thing about Deakins that I really like is that Deakins...
He's got a sick name.
He's got a sick name. But and maybe this is like observational bias as well, but like Deakins has the ability to work with whatever he has to make a beautiful image, even if the image is not required to be beautiful,
right?
So
there's ugliness in this movie.
Yeah, like the assassination of Jesse James is this sort of dreamy look at celebrity in the Western days. So it feels very dreamy and glossy and beautiful, and everything is about the play of light in that film. And then and Skyfall is this like sort of gritty, stylized version where the lights kind of play a psychological impact on what James Bond is doing. And then in this film, like, scenes are just kind of shot pretty straightforward, but he just manages, and I don't know if it's him or Villeneuve, again, observational bias on my part, but like he just seems to point the camera in the right direction to catch just like the fleeting glimpse of beauty in amongst a terrible situation, and it's just, that's what he's good at. And so, when you were saying like $30 million on screen, I think, if you read any interview with Deakins as well, he talks about that that he doesn't like the toys. He doesn't want to have a signature style. He just wants to be true to the story he's telling.
And he does that.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know. So anyway, so just quick because we're running out of time. Final thoughts, I guess, and I think we should tag it with if people haven't seen it yet, which you probably have if you've gotten this far. But I'm just curious if you would recommend this to somebody if they're like, I'm going to the movies Friday. Steve,
I'll echo my previous statements. Watch No Country for Old Men again. It should be it should be at least a yearly watch for everyone involved, really. So it's a technically well done movie that I think just wound up and just kind of like threw the pitch right in the dirt and just completely missed it. So yeah.
All right, Shahir.
It's a tepid recommendation from me.
Ooh,
which is go see it. It's good.
Let me ask you this. Now I kind of know the answer, but I was going to say, would you say if you had? I mean, I guess this depends on your audience member too, or your friend who's asking you. But to go see if they were out at the same time, Jurassic World or this film.
Yeah, it would be this film.
Yeah,
without doubt.
Yeah. I mean, that was kind of a.
I think Steve, would you?
I would. I would say go. I would say go see Sicario again, just because it's like I love Jurassic World. I spoke on that, but this this was. It wasn't that exciting, but it was at least interesting to look at. I think Jurassic World didn't really have much of a. This movie had a bit of character in its design. Jurassic World just kind of.
Sure.
Didn't really have much of that.
I think that sort of will hark back to sort of my final thought is if you can go to a film and see it for it being a film and not just a piece of escapism, I think this is worth your time and seeing on an actual movie theater screen. If you just don't want that and if you just want to go see a movie, and I'm not talking about a summer popcorn action bullshit movie. I'm just saying like you want to have some escapism in the sense of being taken into another place that you don't belong in, basically, and being told a story from there. I don't know if this is the movie I would recommend for you. In fact, I don't. It is not.
Because who would want to go to Juarez? Nobody says like, oh yeah, I want to go vacation in Juarez. Like what? No, it's a terrible place.
Admittedly, like again, some of these scenes are really like tense and well crafted. That first. But it's not consistent enough. Yeah,
it's not consistent enough in its sort of escapism as a film and as a story being told. And so if you can go and look at a film for the pieces of the film, go see it. You're going to find something you like. And if you can't, and you just want to go see it for funsies, don't. Right, that's what I would say.
Yeah, go see the Maze Runner or something.
Tepid recommendations, right. I think, all around.
All right, guys. Well, we did a bang up job in almost an hour. Steve-O, where can people find you if they want to hear your further ramblings?
Well, you can read my further ramblings over at SameNightMovieReview.com, where myself and a buddy of ours, we contribute about new movies, some old movies. Matt's occasionally here too.
Very cool site, by the way.
I feel like at this point, like I'm like the old because Steve and I used to do videos, and you can look them up online. Actually, if you just search "Same Night Movie Review," there's some crazy ones from like 2006 that are kind of nutty.
When we were young,
and had tons of energy and could shoot a film after working a 12-hour day. Yeah. And we did a bunch of fun stuff, and then Steve has sort of taken the torch of Same Night Movie Review and done basically classed up the joint with actually doing written reviews consistently. I feel like I'm like I don't even know what my role
you're
on that site.
You're the wacky uncle who like runs in with like a bunch of cool toys.
But I feel like
now and then.
Yeah. Like, and I was much more involved back in the day. Well, I always say it. I will write a review for a film at some point and throw it.
I can't. I'm so looking forward to that. But yeah, no. Stop on by.
Cool. Shahir, buddy.
Yeah, well, you can catch me on. Well, I'm not there, but
go catch him.
You can see my virtual life at
Pokemon Go. Shahir. Got it.
www.shahirdaud.com, which is SHAHIRDAUD. And then to contact us at Only Movie Podcast, which is our email is onlymoviepodcast@gmail.com. Our Twitter handle is @OnlyMoviePod, and we have a Facebook page where you can look us up and not give you some tickets because we don't care anymore.
Oh, did no one do it? No one did it.
Nobody take the tickets.
Wow.
No one, and we don't care.
Right,
you know what, guys? We don't care.
Yeah.
No,
guys.
You know what?
See your own movies.
Can I have a ticket?
No.
Actually, you know what? Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, you can. You can have the tickets.
Yeah.
Steve, you hear that, audience?
Yeah.
Steve got the tickets. You know why? Because he cares.
Yeah.
Because he cares.
He showed up.
He showed up
for us.
which is more than we can say about you guys.
Oh, dear.
No, but really though, we love our fans and we love you.
Keep listening.
All we wanted to do was give you free movie tickets, and that's why we got spiteful.
Please love us.
You can find me at www.matthewkroll.com. I'm on Instagram, Skeletor, the number 4 PREZ, and on Twitter at Emperor MSK. I know there's a bunch of different portals that you can find me at. I should probably get those cleaned up. But anyway,
yeah, I mean, there's a lot of dick pics.
I mean, I mean, by cleaned up, I mean organize them by the different like clothing and hats I put on the dick pic.
On the dick pic.
Yeah.
Okay.
Anyway, this has been
Disclaimer: not to scale.
This has been the only podcast about Sicario where we just went from a very serious tone movie to talking about dicks and hats.
Well,
my dick's
no,
in a bat-
I actually can't draw any like.
No, I can't either.
I'm stretching there.
My dick's in a Batman mask right now.
That's weird. Well, it was Batman yesterday.
Swear to me.
Anyway.